Welcome to this special episode of The Switch. My name is Jake Burleski, Nonprofit HR's Marketing and Communication Associate. We have a great episode in store for you today, where we will hear from another excellent woman named to Nonprofit HR's 2023 Social Impact Women to Watch list. Each year during Women's History Month, Nonprofit HR proudly recognizes women across North America who have made significant contributions to nonprofits, associations, foundations, social enterprises, and the community that they serve. This special series of The Switch features the 24 finalists named to this year's list due to their extraordinary leadership, unwavering dedication, and impactful achievements. In this episode, Lindsay Otto, our Marketing and Communication Associate for Editorial and Content, sits down with Anahid Brakke, President and CEO of San Diego Hunger Coalition. Throughout the conversation, we'll learn more about Anahid's stellar contributions to the sector. Anahid Brakke is a first-generation Armenian whose father immigrated from Tehran, Iran. She is the first in her family to earn her bachelor's degree. Anahid grew up in a small, working-class town in Oregon and paid for her own education at Wesley College in Boston, in part by working as a secretary and an office manager, and by taking numerous semesters off to save money. After graduation, Anahid spent 5 years managing data on mortgage-backed securities for a financial software company outside of Boston. After relocating to San Diego at age 31, Anahid changed her career path entirely and accepted an entry-level position at the San Diego Foundation to apply her skills towards making the world a better place. 4 years later, Anahid moved into a grant-making and program officer role as the San Diego Foundation's Director of Health and Human Services. After 10 years in philanthropy, Anahid joined the San Diego Hunger Coalition as its executive director in January 2015, and now serves as the organization's president and CEO. I welcome you to share this production in your communities. You can find this recording at nonprofithr.com/The Switch, as well as anywhere you get your podcasts. Without further ado, here's Lindsay and Anahid.
Hi, Anahid. I'm so excited to talk to you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I want to say congratulations again for being named to Nonprofit HR's 2023 Social Impact Women to Watch list. We loved learning about the work that you're doing at the San Diego Hunger Coalition as the president and CEO. And for those who are unfamiliar, your organization focuses on research, education, and advocacy to lead coordinated action to end hunger in San Diego County. And like I said, I'm really excited to dive into that and hear more from you. So are you ready to get started?
Oh, I'd love to.
All right. So I'm really curious what drew you to this mission and specifically inspired you to take action on this issue.
So I started my career over in 2004 in the nonprofit sector. I had worked in healthcare for about 10 years while I put myself through school. I worked for 5 years for a financial software company doing database management and data analysis on fixed income securities, including mortgage-backed securities and a lot of these re-securitized debt instruments that came to public attention with the big housing crisis, right? And the foreclosure crisis and the big recession that was caused by overinvestment in predatory lending and all of these things, kind of a house of cards that very wealthy people were getting rich off of, but we're putting other households at tremendous risk. Actually, I'm going to take one step further back and just say about my own background. My father is from Iran. He met and married my mom in the US. We lived in Iran for a couple of years when I was a child. And then there was some domestic violence and my mother left him. And she and I came back to the States. She remarried and we moved to the southern coast of Oregon. So I grew up in a really small logging, fishing kind of community, really depressed economy, but we consider ourselves middle class. We always had enough to eat, but to do that, my mom flipped coupons. She watched every penny. She cooked from scratch. She went to 5 different grocery stores to get the sales. We really didn't have anything extra beyond keeping a roof over our heads and enough food and that kind of thing. And so when it came time to go to school, I had the grades to go to a good school, but we did not have the financial resources to even visit colleges, and neither of my parents graduated from college. So I was really on my own with that. So I took a ROTC scholarship with the Air Force and was able to go to Wellesley College. But I was, as a first generation college student, I struggled like a lot of us do, leaving home and doing this on our own. And so I ended up having to take an academic leave in my first year, and I stayed in Boston and I started working. without a college degree, without family support, without friends, without any network. And so I have experienced firsthand how difficult it is when you don't have that kind of connection and you don't have a lot of resources and you're on your own trying to make it, and I had a lot of blessings and it was still very difficult. I'd done well in schools and I have fair skin and, I had a lot of advantages and it was still an incredible struggle. And so I think I've always had this gravitation towards making things better and justice and sticking up for people. Going to a school like Wellesley and seeing the tremendous wealth and privilege of households that consider themselves middle class. We're all clumped together. We're all considering ourselves middle class, but the disparity between the resources that some people have and then the lack of resources that other people have and how that's not on the general public's radar just really opened my eyes even more so to how difficult it is for so many people to make it in this country. I was able to piece together different part-time jobs after I left school, do temp jobs, etc. It's very difficult, very stressful. And ultimately, I did get a full-time job that turned into other full-time jobs. And ultimately, I did go back to Wellesley and I continued to work, pay for my own education. And I did graduate 10 years after I started in 1997. After that, I went to work for that financial software company where I was able to make more money than anyone in my family had ever made. I was able to pay off my student debt. But, just the industry itself of making Wall Street more rich and rich people getting richer off of, was just really not moving to me. It was intellectually challenging in terms of the database management and database architecture and how you structure these things. And I really found that I loved that work, but it was a job to pay the bills, et cetera. So after about 5 years there, I decided I wanted to come back to the West Coast. And I thought for sure I would just go back into either something in the financial sector or something in the data sector. And then after taking a month or two off, which I could afford to do thanks to that incredible last job that I had there, I realized I really wanted to do something different. And I wanted to see if what I had learned along the way at the software company or at these other, hospitals I'd worked at or other jobs that I'd worked at, could I make some kind of a change in making things better for other people and making it easier for kids who come from no means or, much worse situations than myself. How can people have a better path? So that is when I started working in the nonprofit sector. I started my career over. I took a job making a fifth of what I made at the software company, start over at the bottom of the ladder as a coordinator at the San Diego Foundation. That's my start in the nonprofit sector. Having experienced kind of the both sides of the spectrum to some extent of limited means and then learning how to move among people with incredible means made me, I felt, a good person, a good broker between the needs of the community and the people who have the money to do something about that. So I worked in philanthropy at the San Diego Foundation. I worked very hard, and over 5 years, by the time I left, I was the director of health and human services on the grant making side. And I was very focused on anti-poverty strategies. And then I did other work in philanthropy until about 9 years ago, about 8.5 years ago now, when one of my grantee organizations, San Diego Hunger Coalition, the executive director was leaving. There were a lot of things that really interested me about this role and about this organization. Some of those things are that there was not in San Diego County a coordinated systemic approach to ending hunger. And I had just come off of the tail end of working on homelessness issues when I was still in philanthropy working as a program officer. I was chairing the homelessness working group. It's a funders collaborative, and that's about the time. And I know this sounds like a very long tangent, but it really is very related to why this job and why now and my approach to it. So working in the homelessness arena at the time that Housing First was coming into play, new research was coming out about how you really have to look at the problem as a whole, right? And HUD was pushing the homelessness and housing sector to operate as a system instead of a group of disparate organizations with different people that they serve and different geographies that they serve. And so I had been through this process as HUD was ushering in more of a system-based, data-driven approach. And I saw how the homeless advocates and homeless serving organizations responded. And they did not like it. It was foreign. Just bringing the data to people did not work. It did not help. That was data from things that, they did not know where that came from. They didn't care what worked in another community. And so I saw how important it was to start from scratch with the providers and partners on the ground. Seeing that in the hunger space, nothing like that was happening in San Diego County or frankly across the country. When this position was opening up, I saw the incredible opportunity to help guide the local sector toward a more data-informed approach to ending hunger. I kind of bounced around there a lot in my response, but I think, having a natural affinity and ability when it comes to numbers and organizing data. And then I think also, having been really fortunate to have worked in different jobs and been able to make money for once, kind of made me realize that it's okay to take risks, and take chances. And so I think some of the things that make me maybe able to be more brave in this role is that I don't really have anything to lose.
I really appreciate you sharing your lived experience and sort of giving us that holistic view. My next question, I think, goes more into that. What unique qualities that you feel you specifically bring, aside from all of the ones you already shared with us, to this community that your organization has built and is building, and how has that advanced your impact in this space?
I think some of the qualities that I have personally that make me a successful leader of this organization and of the different initiatives and movements that we have started and are continuing to shepherd in our community, it's a combination of things. One, I've always been a team player and I always was in team sports. And I really think that as an athlete, you eventually learn to just accept what you're not good at, because if you don't accept what you're not good at and be open, with yourself about it, you really can't get better. And so coming into philanthropy or coming into the nonprofit sector, into this current role and being fully comfortable with not knowing what I don't know and being willing to listen and ask a lot of questions. I think my natural inclination to want to understand how things work and to see everybody as a part of the team, the bigger team to do this work. They feel that they're being listened to and seen and valued, and that their input and perspective matters, and that they're important to the overall mission. I mentioned briefly about my work on the homelessness arena and how I was so surprised that people didn't respond differently to very clear data about how we should be shifting our practices, and that people were valuing what they saw with their eyes and what they felt with their heart over data. I learned that we all come to this work with different tactics, but we're all trying to get to the same thing, and to really be open to the fact that people are looking at the issue and solutions a little bit differently, and that there's space for all of that. And that if as a leader, I'm not able to see and make space for that, people are not going to come along because they're not going to see themselves as part of it. I came in with a very clear vision of what I wanted to do with this data-driven approach to hunger. We're now 8.5 years later where I thought we would be at the end of 2 years. And that is just how long it takes to bring people along. But where we are now as a community is that the hunger relief leaders at the table with Hunger Free San Diego are aware of everything that goes into the methodology that we use. Everybody has been part of developing that methodology, and everybody has developed enough trust to allow us to gather all of their data and roll it up so that we can all see together how we are doing collectively in ending hunger in our region. And so, it's a team approach. When everybody gets a clearer vision of the playing field, if I'm just going to continue this sports analogy, everybody sees that this field is big enough and there is enough to do for all of us. And I've really seen this decrease competition and increase collaboration across our partner network. I think that orientation helps me. The other piece about me is that I am analytical. And while that makes me not necessarily always understand when people are coming to this from a purely heart perspective and not more of a rational, logical perspective when it comes to solving problems, it does enable me to see other perspectives very easily and also see win-wins. And then I don't know if it's because I'm a Scorpio, I don't know if it's because I'm not Armenian. Armenians are a little feisty, but I'm able to say what some people aren't, and I'm not afraid to. So I've been through a lot of ups and downs in my own life and landed on my feet. And so I can say things that other people might not be able to, and I'm willing to say it on other people's behalf. And so whereas I think that this work, especially in an advocacy organization like ours, where we're trying to create change, if we can't talk about what's not working, we're never going to be able to make progress. And so that's not an area that that's not something I shy away from. I actually believe that it's more kind to sometimes say things that are difficult to hear than it is to avoid that because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings or because of blah, 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 blah. Not that I want to hurt anyone's feelings, of course. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do is have a difficult conversation.
Absolutely. Following that, what's the most important thing you would say that you've learned as a leader in this space?
The most important thing I've learned as a leader, as a nonprofit leader, is twofold. One, you can't do it yourself. You have to be inspiring other people to join you. You have to be nurturing those relationships and recognizing other people's efforts, recognizing where people are in order to bring them along and have people feel like they have a role and a place and belong in the movement. And the other piece is that this is a marathon and not a sprint, especially as a CEO of a nonprofit where it's really easy to think, I'm just going to work really hard to get through this next thing, or we just got to get through this crunch, or we just got to get through this crunch or that crunch, or this, this policy change, the government just did this, so got to change direction again. It is really exhausting, can be very emotionally difficult work when you're really trying to do things on behalf of people who have obstacles in the way of achieving their own personal opportunities and success. You're working on things that are really high stakes, and to be thwarted over and over again can be really exhausting. So I guess when I think about advice that I give to people or women that I'm mentoring, about the fact that these are intractable problems that take a long time and will take all of us, and to do it sometimes slowing down and doing things a little bit more thoughtfully and deliberately will not only make our work in the long run more effective and permanent, it will enable us to sustain our efforts as leaders and as other, as people who are working to change problems that are run pretty deep in our country.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Looking to integrate talent into your mission strategic plan? During annual strategic planning, organizations often overlook what talent is needed to meet their goals. Partner with Nonprofit HR for your organization's talent management needs. We offer HR outsourcing and project-based consulting, including strategy and advisory, retained search, total rewards, and equity, diversity, inclusion, and justice. We also offer customized trainings for your workforce. Join the many social impact organizations that have trusted Nonprofit HR to help them increase mission impact through their people. Visit nonprofithr.com.
I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about your philosophy on people management. Would you say that you have a philosophy in engaging mission-driven talent? And, what role have you seen people management play in advancing your mission?
I will say that a couple years into being a new CEO, a brand new CEO for running a nonprofit, when I first came into it, I really did not understand how different people need different things than me. And so that is the biggest thing that I've learned, is that how important it is to really understand your team and how they process information and how they react to information and different people's needs. That has been a huge learning for me, and it's really helped me as a leader, and I think has really helped our teams. As the way that I operate, I would say, I'm not your usual suspect in a lot of ways when it comes to this role. I tend to be a little more informal. I do share often how, the struggles of being a nonprofit CEO, because I want other people to understand what it means, and so that when they come into leading an organization, they have a little bit of a sense, which is different than the way a lot of people operate in this role, which is like to kind of shield the organization or the team from what's happening with leadership and the things, the struggles and whatever else that we have to face. So I think I am a little bit more transparent on that front. I believe in trusting your team and not micromanaging and trying to, it is a fine line that we're always navigating between the team leaders and myself around the direction and the big picture, but I welcome the input and the pushback on the big picture strategies. And then I don't need to be in the day to day. Right? So I think that is also a good way to partner with the team and make them feel like they're partners. And, as we can clarify that piece, I think hierarchy has suddenly gotten a terrible name or has a really bad connotation now because we're unpacking what it means, what patriarchal institutions are, or like this, I'm kind of unpacking everything right now. My understanding of hierarchy is less about power and more about efficiency of decision making and just efficiency of how an organization can run. I try to be pretty transparent about all of that. I tend to be pretty flexible when it comes to people's personal lives and needing a work-life balance. As a Gen X, I was managed by baby boomers and kind of that old school mentality. And I just don't think that is how we should manage people. So we're flexible with our team. We encourage our team to take time off. If you need to sleep in some morning, like that is fine. We're human-centered in how we manage our team and monitor burnout and provide continuous support and acknowledgement of how the work is difficult, especially in an advocacy organization that is like we have to change directions like all the time.
Yeah, definitely. That human-centered approach. I really love that. And it's easy to see how your team can feel empowered and inspired in the work that they're doing and feel comfortable showing up as their full selves to do their best work to advance your mission. And you touched on this a little bit earlier, but because this award is in honor of Women's History Month, I would love to ask what advice you would give specifically to women, to those looking to inspire women in the same way that you have.
I love this question. Inspiring other women, especially younger women, or women who are just at different points in their career or thinking about a career change or trying to increase their income or whatever, wherever people are, this is really important to me. Sexism is alive and well. As women, we experience it on a daily basis. It's always there. And I think that's something that is important to acknowledge and band together and support each other. When I started my career over in philanthropy, I considered myself a rogue agent in an environment that in some ways didn't seem aligned with my values and to some extent, but sometimes you have to work in an environment to do the work that you want, but the environment might not be what you want, which is not a very articulate way of saying that. But what I'm getting at is I think I listened too much to people in some of these more like corporate kind of baby boomer approach type of management styles about how I should show up and who I should be. And there was something a little off about me, right? A little too outspoken, a little too informal, that kind of thing. And so I felt ashamed, honestly, about those differences because I felt like those differences were sort of there because I grew up lower class or, I didn't have the same background. And so now I realize that whatever makes us unique is our blessing and it is our gift to the world. And I would say if you have never done your Myers-Briggs or another type of process to identify your own unique strengths, as well as take a peek at maybe what you're not as good at, just embrace what you're good at, embrace what makes you unique. You may not be able to lead with that in every environment, but hang on to it because you will get to a point in your career like I am now where I can say what I want and I can show up as I wish. And I'm so glad it didn't get like beaten out of me on the way, especially when we're working in jobs that are lower wage jobs. US work environment is not respectful of its employees. And in the US, I feel like their value is equated with how much money they make. And so that can really like tear down your self-esteem and how you see yourself if you equate yourself as well with your income. And so that's my big thing. I think I try to pull out and highlight for the women that I have mentored, what makes them special and unique and to hang on to that. And again, like I said, you can't always lead with that in every environment, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't hold it sacred. And the time will come where you can bring it out full force.
Oh, I totally love that. I'll be holding that with me. So thank you for sharing. So just kind of to round out our conversation, I'd love to bring it back to your mission and your organization. And, what is the greatest hope you have for your mission? And how do you see yourself bringing that hope to fruition for your organization?
I really believe that hunger is a solvable problem. I believe that ending hunger means that whenever anyone doesn't have enough income or resources to purchase enough food, that there is a safety net there, so that they do not have to experience hunger, they do not have to experience malnutrition, so that there is a hunger relief safety net in place that works for everybody. That is within reach. I think what is missing is a little bit more coordination and getting more resources and information into the hands of people who are working to address hunger in every community across this nation. I believe that we are on the right path to that in San Diego County. Leaders are coming together to look at our own data. We now understand as well that it can't just be data driven, and it shouldn't be driven by the data. It needs to be driven by the community and data informed. I believe that the solution is to put the data and some of this bigger picture landscape information in the hands of everyone, so that each community can decide for itself what is the right approach to ending hunger, but they have the full array of resources that they need and information that they need, so they know where to start and how to be the most effective. I also think that we are really on the path of basically equipping people to use their power. I heard recently someone say that it's not about empowering people. People have power. They don't have an opportunity or an avenue to use that voice and that power. And so I'm really encouraged by the focus on racial equity and justice that we're seeing across the sector and across, I'd like to see it move maybe more beyond talk and more into difficult conversations, because that's really where the change is going to happen. But I believe that what we're doing here in San Diego County, it's already a model for multiple hunger-free community. We're part of a hunger-free communities network. And so what we learn and what we're doing, we're sharing across this network. And what others are doing, we're incorporating. And so this to me is how we're going to be able to end hunger in the next 10 years, I'm hoping. And again, what that means is that anyone in need can get the food assistance that they need to get through whatever period of need that they have. I'm very optimistic about that. I think that we've developed something really special. It's not just the data, but there's also like a navigator training to further equip community residents and other players and partners. We're doing our part here in San Diego County to create a much more tightly interwoven safety net for people so that it's there when they need it. And I think it's a model for the nation. I know it is. So when we're able to raise enough money to create the data department that we need to do this and move beyond doing it manually to doing it in an automated fashion, then we're going to be able to just ramp up and scale up the dissemination of this information, and then to see what communities are going to do with this. We've already seen what communities who have been able to gather this information have been able to do. So for us to be able to put this into the hands of people across the entire county, and we have a county of 3.2 million people. And so that is another reason why I think what we're doing here in San Diego County is a really good model for other parts of the nation. We're very diverse here. We're a border community. There's a lot that we are doing here that is working well, and with the right funding, we're going to be able to take it to its full potential here and then scale it up across California and the nation. I'm sure of it.
That's really incredible. That whole structure, that setup, that's really amazing. So as we're coming up on time here today, I want to ask if there's any other parting words that you would like to leave with our audience.
I feel a lot of appreciation to nonprofit HR for doing these awards. Sometimes you're working away in a community and to be recognized just makes me feel like we're on the right path here, and I feel personally validated. I do think that, as I said, unfortunately, sexism is alive and well, and we do need to hold up women leaders, to have the opportunity to share thoughts about what I would say to other women facing different things in their careers or in their personal lives, I think is really something special and important that you're doing. So thank you for that. And thanks for recognizing our work and recognizing me. And I'm just really grateful.
Of course, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure to speak to you and to, every woman that we can lift up in this community, in this space, and, and help others see the good work that's being done and inspire them as well. So once again, I'm really grateful for you coming on to speak with me and to share your story and to be so candid and open with me. Like I said, it's been such a pleasure, such an honor. So thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. So nice to talk with you.
Well, that's our show for today. This conversation was full of amazing moments, but what I found most admirable was that Anahid was willing to change her career path at the age of 31 in order to make a positive impact in the world. And I think we can all agree she's achieved that mission. Once again, we thank you for listening to The Switch. And if you're looking for more episodes of The Switch, visit nonprofithr.com/The Switch, where you can access recordings and resources to help your organization maximize its greatest asset, your people.